What is the personality of the 49ers? Are there systemic issues on the team? And can Robert Saleh save them? We'll discuss all that and more next on the Cohn Zone. Good afternoon. Welcome to a special late edition of your favorite show, the Cohn Zone. That's the famous Lowell Cohn. I'm Grant Cohn. Just got back from long day at 49ers facility, in the locker room, taking a pulse of the team, Dad. And it's not a normal 49ers team. It seemed like they're a team in flux, in crisis. How would you describe, they say they're looking for their identity. How would you describe the personality of the 49ers right now?
Okay. What they have done so far this season, they have created a personality. Unfortunately, the personality is a team that holds a lead until late in the game and loses. Mm-hmm. They're a team that, you can use lots of very hard verbs. It's a team that folds. It's a team that gives it up. It's a team that can't hold on. It's a team that gets outplayed. It's a team where the other coach has a better plan. It's a team where the other team, and I'm talking inferior teams, Rams, Cardinals, inferior teams, play harder at the end. So clearly they don't want that to be their personality, and they want to evolve into a contender personality that dominates on offense and can really stop the run on defense and is brilliantly coached. And they may evolve into that. But right now, Iggy, they're a 2-3 loser, and they're a loser who gives it up. You know, for me in sports or in life, the metaphors always come from boxing. And, I've seen thousands of boxing matches, thousands. And very often there's a slick boxer who's quick, jabs, moves, and scores points in the early rounds of 10-round fight, 12-round fight. But the other guy is dogged. He keeps coming and he keeps hitting in the body. Eventually, the slick guy, he's had taken body shots, slows down, and his hands come down. Knockout in the 9th round, 10th round. And that's what's happening to the Niners. They're fast, they're slick at the beginning generally, against crummy teams. They look what happened with Arizona. They kept running. And at the end, the Niners dropped their guard and they got knocked out.
It's funny you went boxing there. I was going to go boxing metaphor as well. And I was going to mention a specific boxer. To me, the Niners sort of had the personality of a specific famous boxer. The last few years, they were very intimidating. They would knock teams out in the first round. Quick knockouts, like young Tyson. And now they seem kind of more like old Tyson or post Buster Douglas Tyson, because it seems like it's clear, as long as you just make Tyson work, make the Niners work, take the fight deep into the 10th round, 11th round, he'll fold. They'll fold.
He did. He continually folded. He was a bully, and he wasn't really that tough. And tougher was Holyfield. Mm-hmm. Holyfield, I'll take what you have to give me. I'm theoretically, a cruiserweight. I'm not even theoretically, but I'll beat you. And he was stronger-willed. He took whatever Tyson had to give him, and he knocked him out. And in the second fight, Tyson couldn't even face him. So he bit his ear twice to get disqualified. It was not brave. I'm not saying that the Niners bite ears.
We're not calling them ear biters.
We're not calling them ear biters. But their personality right now is they could beat the crummiest teams in the league, and one of them today just got the coach fired. So that's how bad the Jets are. And against really, really marginal, crummy teams, they don't have the stuff to stick it out for 60 minutes, and they give it up. Their personality is to give it up.
And to me, a big reason that they give it up is because while they're a tremendous collection of talent, the 2024 version of this team isn't really a cohesive team yet. And I don't know that they ever will be. I mean, think about this offseason. How many important people just weren't there this offseason and showed up?
Iggy, first of all, I do agree with you. They're not a team. They're a collection of guys. Mm-hmm. They're not a team, and that includes the coach. he's not dialed in and the team isn't dialed in. And you're right. The one guy was a holdout. The other guy was a hold in. The other guy, they paid him a lot of money and he can't walk because he's got these, well, he can walk, but he can't run because he's got this tendonitis. How are people feeling? Like, I'm in training camp, I'm in OTAs, and these other guys don't show up and they get rewarded for it.
Mhm.
They get rewarded. And
Mhm.
there must be, I mean, these people aren't idiots. They're these young men are quite intelligent. They can learn a playbook. They must know what's going on with the team.
Yeah, there seems like it's not one team right now. For example, you had two players, similar players, future not maybe not future Hall of Famers, but guys who were clearly irreplaceable. Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams. Both guys wanted guaranteed money, new contracts. Christian McCaffrey got it immediately, quietly, no struggle. Trent Williams had to wait until like the day before the season started. What's the difference? Why? Because Trent's older? Yeah, but Christian was hurt. So I think maybe there's a lot of business considerations on the team right now. And I think maybe some players are looking around like, well, what's the logic here? Like, he got paid, but he had to sweat it. He didn't have to sweat it. He's not getting paid. Who's in? Who's out? Am I in?
That's right. And if this is what's going on, and it's a reasonable hypothesis, it's not only the coach and the general manager who are implicated, it's ownership.
Right.
How do you run a team? How do you keep it cohesive? This
Well,
goes to the very top.
if you're a player and you don't know, or you're thinking you might not be on the Niners next year, you might have to make some business decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not invested in you and you know you're going to be on the chopping block the way Eric Armstead was, and this is your last year, maybe, don't get hurt this year, or who knows what the personality is. But it seems like there's a lot of people who are pretty certain they're not coming back next year.
Well, but another way of looking at it is, and again, I haven't been there in like 7 or 8 years. What's it like in the locker room? Are people happy? Are they playing music? Are they talking? Does everybody seem to be an island?
That one. Not a lot of music. Yeah. Everyone seems to be an island. You see Nick Bosa there talking to the media, but you don't see a lot of like fraternizing amongst themselves.
Well, I got to say, I was in the locker room for 5 Super Bowl teams, and there was a lot of interaction. Joe Montana was one of the guys. He didn't put himself like Aaron Rodgers above the team. Joe was one of the guys. He and Ronnie Lott, and he and Jerry were. I once heard Jerry once got a really nice car. I think it might have been a Ferrari. I don't know. And I was interviewing Jerry, and Joe came over and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, but what's the car like? Could you tell me about your car?" And they were giggling and all of that. It was a team. They were in there. I have a feeling that this year is a bunch of independent contractors.
I agree. It feels like they were a team last year, and then all of a sudden, everyone on this team is out for themselves now. What they can get, what they're owed, what they deserve. I mean, Aiyuk got his, so why shouldn't I get mine? And right. Once the team is in that mode, I think you're in trouble.
And Iggy, here's the other thing. Aiyuk got what he wanted. He got it by acting like a bum. He wasn't a gentleman. Not a bum. Maybe he acted like a teenager, like an adolescent, and he was rewarded for that. And that led to the thing with the shorts. And there were probably grown-ups on the team who were thinking, what?
Here's an interesting parallel. Brandon Aiyuk was entering the final year in his contract, and it upset him to be in a lame duck year. So he wanted an extension, and he made a big deal about it, made it public, held in. Diamador Lenoir's in the same situation. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He's a really good player. He didn't hold out. He didn't complain on his social media or on anyone's podcast. He showed up to every day of camp and was like the best player in camp. And now he's having an excellent season. And it looks kind of like the Niners rewarded the wrong guy.
I'm going to ask you a question. Is it fair to say that Diamador Lenoir is as important to the 49ers as Brandon Aiyuk?
At least.
At least. You're saying
At
he may even
least.
be even more important he could possibly be?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Aiyuk had a big game this last week. They lost. It seems like the go-to guy in the Niners offense clearly is Christian McCaffrey, and everyone else is a supporting actor. Diamador Lenoir plays a position. He's good all by himself. He's not a product of scheme or some other player. He's really good.
And he took it to the house.
And he
in
took
the
it
last game. Took it to the house.
So that's the personality of the Niners. They're not one team right now, which let's look big picture. This is year 8 for Kyle Shanahan. A lot of times coaches get tuned out already if they haven't won a Super Bowl. This guy's just coming off his second Super Bowl loss. The team is not cohesive right now. They just lost to the Cardinals. Are we witnessing the death throes of the Shanahan era?
Okay. This is a big topic. So I want not to be crazy or nuts. I want to start in the shallow water and get into the deeper water. There's something wrong with the team. If they beat Seattle, they're in first place. So they're not dead. They have a really good quarterback who's not playing well. Running all around like that is not his game. They have an offense which only scored 16 against the poor, terrible Cardinals. And their defense, especially late in the game, is unprepared. Unprepared. That's a lot that's wrong through 5 games. So you would have to say, at the very least, the coach is not getting through, or the coach has nothing to offer to get through. I've been around a lot of teams that go sour, and I'm using sour. Teams that are very good. I've had it with the Warriors and the Giants and the A's and the Raiders and the Niners. All of a sudden, they're just not good anymore.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put your finger on it, but and you can feel it. You can feel the death in the locker room. You can feel the death at the end of games. And I'm stating this as a hypothesis, meaning I don't know, I'm not there, but I'm concerned that it's over with for them. I'm concerned that Shanahan has run his course, that the players are not listening to him, that they've tuned him out, and that certain players don't like him and respect him. I'm concerned that certain players don't like him and respect him. Yes.
Dad, when Brandon Aiyuk wore the red shorts to practice and then argued about taking them off and then took them off the way he did, was that not a big FU to Kyle?
It was, absolutely. There's no other way to interpret it.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
An intentional FU.
And needless, didn't have to do it. And it showed he felt free to say screw you to the head coach in front of the whole team and the media. And he knew that it would be picked up. You picked it up and go viral nationally. He knew he didn't give a damn. So he may play hard for himself sometimes. He's a great player. He had a great game the other day, but his attitude is terrible. And if there are other players like that on the team, if it's not just him, that's very bad. I'm not in that locker room, but I feel the team has gone sour. It's like milk that goes sour.
And players could look at how Aiyuk is acting and how he gets to be the second highest paid player on the team anyway and be like, wow, they just coddle this baby who acts out and treats the coach with utter disrespect. I'm over here trying to be a professional and no one notices. Not valued.
Right. In addition, Iggy, there may be 2 teams on the 49ers.
Yeah.
There may be like in 1984, I'm sorry, Animal Farm, that great novel by George Orwell, this term, some are more equal than others. And I have a feeling that on the Niners, some are more equal than others. And I'll tell you the more equal. The more equal are that horrible fullback, the great tight end, the running back, the left tackle, maybe Aiyuk. Others, like some of the defensive backs, Ward, Diamado, Lenoir, these are wonderful players, and they're really, really play hard, and they really have a good secondary. I think, again, I've never met these people. I wonder if I were to talk to them and we would talk off the record, and I'd say, "Do you think there's two teams? And do you think on the team that's some are less equal than others, and you're on the less equal team?" I wonder if that's going on, and if that is, it's hard to get them to play hard for you, and they're probably thinking that they're getting a raw deal from the general manager, from ownership, and the coach. So I'm wondering, again, I'm not asserting, I'm wondering if, first of all, I do feel there's a sour taste to that. I can taste it, but I wonder if my two-team theory is, possibly correct or just ridiculous. I
wonder
give it
how
out there.
I wonder how the locker room responded to Eric Armstead getting cut. I mean, he was the longest tenured player on the team. He was a Walter Payton Man of the Year finalist. He was a captain. There were a lot of players who seemed to look up to him. He gave life advice to some of these guys, and he has those charitable organizations in Sacramento. They humiliated him this offseason. They're like, "We know that you're probably worth $17 million a year. We'd like to pay you $6 million. What do you think?" And he went and got $17 million a year from Jacksonville. And I think it was clear at that moment that he was not in, he was out. And that there are, guys like the fullback who maybe they have to take a pay cut sometimes, but they're essentially in. The fullback has made $38 million in his tenure with the Niners going in motion. But you could be a Pro Bowl cornerback or a Pro Bowl safety and not get any type of special consideration. That's the two teams.
I mean, I don't like Armstead personally, but I understand what he means to some players in that locker room. And he essentially got dismissed and humiliated. It must have hurt some of them very much. So, and didn't in the preseason somebody say there was
Juwan
one
Jennings.
player?
Yeah, he was talking at his locker, and someone was asking about, I think it was like the day that Brandon Aiyuk got signed, and someone said, how great is it to have Trent and Aiyuk back? And he's like, yeah, we got our guys back. We're just missing one guy, but I'm not going to talk about that. He's talking about Eric Armstead.
And it means it's on his mind.
Yeah.
And if it's on his mind, it's on other people's minds.
Yeah.
So I just feel that the Niners are in the process of lousing up a good thing, Iggy. Now, again, if they beat Seattle, and we'll get to that later, they can make it all right. And then people, when you win, you feel better about each other. But as of today, I don't like how it is. You're smiling. What's going on?
They remind me of like a rock group from the 60s that gets really famous, and then everyone in the group wants to go solo. Yeah. Because they're all the star, and like each one needs to get the recognition that it was all about them. It kind of feels like the Niners right now. Like Aiyuk needs his solo. He needs his saxophone solo, and then Kittle needs to have his solo halfway through the song. It's incredible how many egos are on one team.
It even happened with the Beatles and the Stones.
Yeah.
That very thing happened with the Beatles and the Stones.
Because the Niners are a group of like little celebrity football players. I mean, they have a lot of famous guys. They've had the same stars on the team for a long time. They've all gotten more and more rich and more money. And now it just seems like, I don't know. Are they all going solo now? It's hard to say.
Hey, Iggy, I watched that last night, that Kansas City game. They didn't have that many stars. They had the quarterback and the tight end, but they had this wide receiver, what's his name? Juju Smith-Schuster.
They got him off the street.
And they got the other one, number 29.
Kareem Hunt.
He was hanging around.
He was at the bus station.
Cleveland. He was at the bus station, and both of them had great games. Mm-hmm. They wanted to play. They were all in, and they're not stars. They played like stars.
Yeah, you give Andy Reid. You give Andy Reid, a 35-year-old future Hall of Fame tight end, a first-round pick at wide receiver, and a bunch of guys off the practice squad. You'll see guys wide open all night. But with Kyle Shanahan, you could give him a $30 million wide receiver, a $24 million wide receiver, a $15 million a year tight end, a $5 million a year fullback, a $7 million a year slot receiver. And if he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey, all bets are off. He might just score 16 points.
Hey, Iggy, what if you gave Andy Reid the Niners?
I'm thinking they'd win the Super Bowl. If Kyle Shanahan were the head coach of the Chiefs and Andy Reid were the head coach of the Niners, who would have won that Super Bowl?
Right. Also, if they changed teams currently, they would change identities. The Niners would be a team that played 60 minutes and won because Andy's coaching them, and the Chiefs would lose it in the last 2 minutes. They'd blow a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter.
I love this. If Kyle Shanahan were the head coach of the Chiefs, would Patrick Mahomes be better or worse?
He would tell Patrick, "You can't do this thing because it's not my system."
Yeah.
And Patrick would go and like, "Ah, it's not in my system. You're a good quarterback. It's not how we do things in our system."
All right, let me ask you a question, Dad. Robert Saleh got fired today. Do you think he can save the 49ers this season?
Okay. So now we're playing fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay. I love to play fantasy.
Me too.
Let's say his contract allows him to go seek other employment this season. And the Niners come to their senses and say, "Robert, save us. Please come and save us.
You.
We need you."
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And I do believe he could improve their defense in 1 day. In 1 day, because he is a very strong person. He's very smart, and he's a hell of a defensive coordinator. As far as failing as a head coach, anyone would fail at that organization, the Jets. So, yes, I do think that he would be great. On the other hand, would he want to come? Because here's the thing, Iggy. If the Niners can't get their things together this season, this group could be out. I'm talking Shanahan and Lynch.
Yeah.
If they have what Harbaugh had in his last season, Iggy, what was he, 8-8 in his last season?
Correct.
If they have
and they missed
9-8, and if they miss the playoffs, I think this group is gone. And Saleh, who's more intelligent probably than those other two, would say, "What's in it for me to go there, maybe live in a motel?" And be with them and then get fired at the end of the season.
Right.
Maybe I'll just collect my money from the Jets because they're paying him a lot of money. I'll go to the Jersey Shore or I'll go back to Michigan and I'll see what happens next season.
Yeah. Hang out with his wife and 8 kids.
Yeah. I'm not sure I want to go to the 49ers. Are they the best team for me?
Yeah. He could go to the Niners next year in the offseason if they're the best team for him. But how good is the Niners defense really? Nick Bosa, really super rich, not the player he was in the past. Fred Warner, still great. Who else they got? They got 2 corners that won't be there next year.
Yeah. Although if Saleh were to come in, maybe they would be there next year. You don't know.
I was thinking that's more like of a financial thing. I don't know that they're necessarily.
I understand. He might make the case or whatever.
Maybe.
But look, would I like Saleh to come back and be the defensive coordinator? Hell yeah. And I'm going to tell you a residual benefit. He would make Kyle a better head coach.
Yeah.
He would. Because he's established the standard. He'd established the standard on the team, which Kyle can't do.
And he would also drastically, I love that, by the way, because I felt when he was here that he was more of the leader of the team than Kyle was, that the defense was what was winning games. And he was not only in charge of that, but he was in charge of the whole personality of the team. But just in terms of defense, he's a really good defensive coach. The Jets defense was good. He got fired because Aaron Rodgers was a disaster, and so was Zach Wilson, and they never got the quarterback position right or the offensive coordinator spot right. But as far as defense goes, he'd be such an upgrade over Nick Sorensen. Kyle Shanahan was asked about Sorensen today. He's like, "Oh, we're really pleased with him. He's doing a really good job." Dad, the Niners DBs, all the corners, all the safeties, currently have 0 interceptions. Last year they had 16. 0.
Really? 0.
They had 6. What has changed? It's the same guys.
Whoa. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Uh-huh. And Steve Wilkes, he wasn't perfect, but his background is DBs. And I thought he did a great job with the secondary last year, not in terms of just scheme and play calling, but coaching and teaching. And all those guys had their best season ever under him.
Interesting.
I think Nick Sorensen's a problem. Or Staley or whoever. Again,
I want to say, Iggy, I think there's something drastically wrong with the team now. If they can't straighten it out, if they are 2-4 after Thursday night, I think this whole regime is in trouble. And you know that if Eddie DeBartolo was a coach, he would tell them they were in trouble. He would tell them, "We're in trouble."
Look, some people think we're being alarmed.
Or was the owner, Eddie? If Eddie was the owner,
sure. Some people think we're being alarmist. Some people think, look, the red zone is the issue on offense. When Christian McCaffrey comes back, that won't be an issue anymore. And on defense, they just need Dre Greenlaw back. If and when those two guys return, let's say right after the bye week, and they're everything they were last year, are the Niners back?
According to the way I'm thinking today, no, because I don't think the issue is a player here or there, as good as those two are. I think the issue is there's something wrong with the team. It's like when you bite into an apple and it's rotten inside. I think that the apple is rotten inside. I don't know why, and I don't know how. So I think if you bring those players back, no, there's something more fundamentally wrong than bringing back those two great players. That's what I think.
I agree with you. It's not a team, and I feel like the people on the team all have their own individual agenda, and that's not a team. It's hard to get 53 people pulling the same direction, and I don't think the Niners are doing that, which is how they lose to a team like the Rams.
The Cardinals.
Iggy,
how do you lose that to the? We don't want to go into the Cardinals because it's history, but you have a guy who it's a blocked field goal and he takes it to the house. You win that game. How do you lose that game? I mean, the Cardinals gave the game to the Niners in the first half, gave it to them. And then in the second half, the Niners didn't score.
They gave it back.
You can't blame that on the kicker got hurt. They gave it back. They were as pitiful in the second half as Arizona was in the first half. That's not a well-coached team. That's not a team that's ready to win.
Agree. And look, if Al Davis were the coach of this team, would he not be thinking like, look, if Christian McCaffrey goes down and we can't score in the red zone, then what am I paying Kyle for? What am I paying Aiyuk for? What am I paying Debo for? What am I paying all these guys such a premium if everything goes to shit the minute one player goes down?
Right. Al did trade a coach.
He would think that way. What am I paying you for?
Yeah.
So.
And I'll tell you something else, Iggy. Imagine if Aiyuk played for Al. Think Al would have let him hang around and walk around and shake hands and hold in? Think Al would have let that happen? Not in a million years. Wouldn't have happened in a million years. And
I know Jed would say, like, it's a different era. All I know is that good teams don't have drama like this. The Rams don't have drama like this. And they're not even a good team, but they are a team that's won a Super Bowl. And the Niners aren't.
Yeah. I agree. Good teams don't have drama.
Yeah. All right. Let's do some sleeper.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Wait a minute. I just want to say before we do sleeper, and I'll give you an example of a team that doesn't have drama. Detroit.
Yeah. They're a team.
You don't hear a word about them.
Yeah.
The quarterback isn't as good as Brock Purdy. He isn't.
No.
I don't even think the team's as good as the Niners.
No.
But they're playing better, and you never hear anything about them. Okay, go to sleeper.
Minnesota doesn't have drama.
No.
They're not responding to the haters in the media. They're not calling out beat writers. They don't do stuff like that. Niners do stuff like that. Okay.
Oh, and no. Before we get to sleeper, because I want to say, you're talking about Juice, Kyle Juszczyk, Tang. You're talking about Tang. What that horrible tweet he put out to you about you. I want to say that shows, of course, his character is so flawed. But Iggy, he's known you for 8 seasons, right?
Correct.
Okay. He's probably not liked you for 8 seasons.
Yeah.
But he's never done anything like that before. So why did he do it? One, you've been on him lately. In addition, I think it's a symptom of what's happening in that locker room, that they're flailing. They're flailing. They don't know who to be angry at. They maybe can't say it about the coach, so they go after a media member. I'm saying what Juszczyk did, as crummy as it was, is symptomatic of what's something wrong on that team.
I'm going to take it a step further. He did it on his own. He didn't do it as a team. If you want to take a shot as a beat writer, do it as a team. All 53 of us are uncomfortable with this man. He did XYZ. We want him out. We're doing this as a team. He did it by himself, which is how everyone's moving on this team this year.
Right. And it's how the team is. So I think
everyone has their own little agenda.
Yeah. What he did is interesting on so many levels. Okay. Sleeper.
Sleeper. All right, let's get the thing. Okay, so we got the Niners in 2 days. Jordan Mason, Brock Purdy. Let's start with Brock Purdy. You want to go yards? You want to go touchdowns, interceptions, rushing yards? How do you feel? What are you thinking?
I'd like to go yards.
Yards. Okay. Yards for 200. 200 252 and a half passing yards, more or less. Last game he had 244. Before then he eclipsed 250 in each game.
Fewer.
I
think here's why. I think it's a pretty good defense, Iggy,
in
Seattle.
It is.
He's not playing well, and he hasn't had that much time, to think it through and to get an entirely new game plan. So I'm not confident about him right now.
I'd have to agree with that. I think they're going to try to get back to running the ball. Speaking of running the ball, Jordan Mason, 85 and a half rushing yards.
Is this team good against the run?
Not particularly.
Okay, then I love him. I love him. So yes, more.
Okay. George Kittle, will he score a touchdown? He scored 1 in 3 consecutive games.
I'm going to say yes. Iggy, I really respect his work.
Me too. Deebo
Iggy,
Samuel, will he score a touchdown at any point in this game? He hasn't scored one in 3 weeks.
I'd say absolutely no.
He's having an alarmingly bad year.
And
I'll talk about guys who go ahead.
Well, I know how Bill Walsh thought about keeping players. He would have gotten rid of Deebo Samuel. They're paying him now for past performance. He's not an elite player anymore. And it's not a knock on him. It's what happens to every player. You become not an elite player anymore.
Okay, Kenneth Walker, the running back for the Seahawks, 54 and a half rushing yards for Kenneth.
More.
I agree.
More. He's a good runner. And I don't think the Niners are that good, especially late in the game. You saw what happened with this Connor guy.
Geno Smith, 250 and a half passing yards.
No way. Iggy, I apologize. I just don't like his work.
No on Geno.
No.
Jawan Jennings, will he score a touchdown?
You know what? Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, absolutely. Going to put 25 down to win $2,500. Let's flex because I'm conservative. There we go. Download the Sleeper app today. Use promo code Cohn to be entered to win 2 tickets to the Niners Week 8 Sunday night game against the Cowboys. That's 2 tickets on the 50-yard line. Pretty up high, but at night, it's going to be nice to the game against the Cowboys. Use promo code Cohn when you download the Sleeper app. Dad, the Niners say they got to get back to complimentary football. Nick Bosa said that when he was saying that the coaches weren't making the right adjustments. He has the right adjustment, Dad. They got to get back to complimentary football. What does that mean to you? Let's go English major here. Let's define our terms.
Okay. I know what complimentary football is. Before I get into it, and I'm happy to do it, how did Kyle define it?
He said it's when all 3 phases are playing well at the same time.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just like excellent football. That's not complimentary football. That's excellent football. Yeah.
That's excellent football. That's what you dream for. That's what you dream for. So complimentary football, I'm going to put special teams away for a moment. I'm just going to talk about offense and defense. And what I learned over years covering the sport. Coaches would tell me there are not 2 teams, offense and defense. We're one team.
You know what Jim Harbaugh calls it? It's kind of corny. We-fence. It's not offense or defense. It's we-fence.
Oh, I didn't know. I missed that one. But it's
he came up with that in Michigan.
In Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan.
But the point is, that's along the lines of what I'm thinking. It's told to me by important coaches, it's not 2 teams, it's one team. So you look at it like, how can the offense part of the same team help the defense part of the same team? Okay. How can it complement it? How can it do things in such a way that to help the defense be a better defense? Well, Kyle, in the fourth quarter, when you have a lead, what you do is you run the ball on offense. This is complementary football. And why do you run the ball? I want to make it real simple, Kyle. I don't want to overcomplicate it for you. You run the ball because it takes time off the clock. Almost about 50 seconds between every play, as opposed to throwing it where there can be incompletions, stop the clock, or interceptions, Kyle. And why do you run it? Because it helps the defense. It keeps your defense off the field, and it keeps them fresh in case, God forbid, they need to go back on the field and do something heroic. That's complementary football, offense helping defense.
Yeah. And that's what they used to do when Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback, because Jimmy wasn't that good. And instead of winning with the offense, they were a defense-oriented team. They would close people out with their pass rush. And Jimmy Garoppolo's job was to sort of like lead a slow, methodical offense that could run the ball. They won an NFC Championship game throwing 8 times. It worked. That was their identity. Now they have this special quarterback and all these expensive weapons, and it seems like Kyle Shanahan has decided that they have to win with offense this year. But he can't close. The defense was the closers in the past, and it seems like the offense is supposed to be facilitating them. But turnovers in the second half, passing with the lead in the second half, that's not complimentary football. That's like pigging out on offense for no good reason.
Right. It's pigging out, and it's saying to the defense, I don't care about you.
Yeah.
Get your asses back on the field. Yeah. Now let me show me how good you are, as opposed to, we're one team. We'll help you. We're going to run the ball here. We have some pretty good running backs. And, you can also throw a screen pass to Debo. That's like a run. And he's good at that. That's
or to Mason.
Or Mason. That's the one thing Debo can do. And Mason can do just about anything. So they're not playing complementary football. And what's more important is, it's not you or me saying it. It's Bosa. Mm-hmm. Bosa's smart. Bosa must be looking and saying, what the hell is he doing?
What is Kyle trying to prove?
What does he want from me?
Yeah.
What does he want from us?
Yeah. What is he trying to prove with his offense right now? What is he doing?
Yeah.
It's not what we do.
Right.
Yeah. Strange. Like, are you trying to justify this contract that you're going to give Brock Purdy? Are you trying to prove to everyone that Brock Purdy is this incredible franchise quarterback? Because it almost seems like you're proving the opposite.
No, he's trying to prove he's a genius, Iggy.
He's a genius.
He's a genius. He's trying that. Yeah. You're not supposed to pass. I'm going to pass. I'm going to win.
Right.
He's proven he's a genius. And what I'm saying is, his character flaw is his ego.
Right.
He has 2 character flaws, Iggy. One is his ego, and the other is his inability to learn. Right. And that may be related to his ego.
Right. So when they say let's play complimentary football, they're saying let's stop being so cute. Let's stop being so cute. We don't have to score a million. We don't have to try to score 1 million points and gain 500 yards to win a game. Let's just run the ball.
Especially when you're ahead in the fourth quarter. Run the ball. I think I told you in 1992 when I was covering for a book I was writing, the Stanford team, and Bill Walsh was very generous to me. And one day we were sitting in the projection room, and he was showing me they had just beat USC. He was very proud of that. And we watched the whole thing. It was interesting to watch with him. And like a schmuck in the second half, I noticed they were running a lot. And I said, gee, Bill, you're really not throwing very much. Why are you running so much? And he goes, Lowell, that's football. Lowell, that's football.
I love that.
And here's the thing. He needs to say to Kyle or someone, I'm sorry, Bill can't say, Kyle, that's football.
Yeah.
Not this shit.
Not this shit.
Not this shit.
Serenity, you've been a member for 8 months. Thank you. Alan H says, who's still on your side in the locker room, Grant? Nothing has changed in the locker room. Everything is exactly as it was last week. So I don't know. I don't know who's on my side, but I can do business with everyone except for the fullback who wasn't there today.
He didn't show up?
I didn't see him.
Oh, I thought he was Mr. Media.
No, in fact, the locker room today was pretty sparse. That's what it looked like when Chip Kelly was the coach. There would be no one there. Remember that during the week? Chip Kelly locker rooms, no one there.
Yeah, because they had given up on that coach a long time ago.
And no one wanted to be the person, like the spokesman for that team.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's happening again.
Yeah.
Hi,
Dave Barclay says,
I was here last week.
Yeah. Dave Barclay says, hello, gentlemen. Haven't seen Lowell in a bit. What do you mean? He was here. Serenity says, excellent reply, Papa Cohn. I posted CA libel law to 49ers channel after complaining Tang needs to zip it. I got so many haters that I sarcastically thank the comm staff for maintaining respect. They deleted it all.
Boy, I've been blocking a lot of people lately, the stuff they write to me about my son.
Fish and Chips says, time for no juice to go. Also enough with Kyle's.
Kyle's.
Plural. Luis Medeiros says, Lowell, do you feel there are linebackers and DBs on this roster or practice squad that can contribute more than Devondre Campbell and Isaac Yiadom?
That's a question for Iggy.
I would say yes. I'd like to see what a young guy could do with those veterans. Dave Bartlett says, fire Lyle. I've been out on him for 5 years. Calls him Lyle. Then he says, no one listens to him. No one respects. No respect earned. Anoop says, we are Dan Snyder's Redskins, overpaid underperformers, a non-team 25th anniversary of York's takeover, and they're still clueless on how to run the Niners.
That may turn out to be true.
Dave Barclay says, people talk about Saleh coming back. He isn't. If we are extremely lucky, he comes back, but as our head coach and Lyle is gone. Love the show. Thank you guys. Fire Juice, fire Lyle, and maybe more. Charlie Sinclair says, I think Kyle lost Nick Bosa when he hired Staley. Joey and the Chargers hated him in the end. Possible.
Interesting. Sounds like hey, it sounds like a doo-wop group. Joey and the Chargers.
Joey and the Chargers. Benny and the Jets.
Dion and the Belmonts.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Dave Barclay says, why do fans get so crazy about quarterbacks? I don't know. It's an important position.
Yeah.
Charlie Sinclair says, Joey hated when he had to drop into coverage too. Dave says, offseason is piss poor in NFL already, altogether, not ready.
They're not ready.
Talk show says, don't forget Kyle didn't go for it on 4th and 1. Dave says, gee, I tried to do your betting app. Montana isn't in it. I'm so sorry. Nola Yu says, can they bring Saleh back this late? Yes. The question is, does he want to come back? Dad, I think it's worth, before we look ahead, I think it's worth looking back just for 5 minutes at Kyle Shanahan's history with quarterbacks, because it's astounding. You want to start?
Yeah. Okay. I learned my football covering Bill Walsh's teams, and I believe that there is no one who's ever coached in that league who was better at developing quarterbacks. And I think it speaks for itself. I feel that Kyle Shanahan has made, I think it's 5 grievous errors, and I'm going to call them sins, not errors, sins with the quarterback position that Iggy will help me enumerate. And what I want to say is, I don't think he has a clue about how to judge quarterbacks, and certainly not how to develop them. So let me tell you what I think his grievous sins are. Iggy, he passed on Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's like, it's hard to, I think every other coach who passed on Mahomes has been fired already by now. Every other one. Yeah.
And this is a guy who's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer. Mm-hmm. Do you think Bill Walsh would have passed on Patrick Mahomes?
Probably not.
It doesn't fit my system. I don't think
Andy Reid didn't pass on him. He traded up for him.
Yeah. Well, because Andy Reid's a better coach than Shanahan.
Yeah.
So Iggy, that's number one. Can you come up with another quarterback sin?
Well, they go to the Super Bowl, they lose. Tom Brady is interested in playing for them, and they say, no, thanks, Tom. You're not good anymore. We want to stick with Jimmy. He's got a future. And then Tom Brady goes to the Bucs and immediately wins the Super Bowl.
Right. That's unbelievable. And there's a guy who's from San Mateo, Tom Brady, and his dad lives out here. He wanted to come home and play. He could have taken the Niners to a Super Bowl win. Mm-hmm. And
it was interesting to listen to Tom Brady talk about the Niners as an announcer in this game against the Cardinals. I mean, he could have been there. He got passed up. They were like, we don't want you, Tom.
Yeah. I actually think he's very good. His analysis was so spot on. I just wish a guy from San Mateo didn't call San Francisco San Fran. He kept calling it San Fran. I want to say, you grew up right down the Bayshore Freeway. I don't get it. Okay, another one. Another sin. He got Jimmy. Kyle got Jimmy. Jimmy had some good games. All of a sudden, he thought he had one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And they went all in with Jimmy prematurely. And look how that worked out.
Yeah, they made him the highest paid player in the league after 5 starts. 7.
Yeah. He didn't know what he was looking at.
No.
You don't do that. And then it turned out he was really fairly mediocre, and they were stuck with him, and he was ambivalent. He played him, he didn't play him, he was on the sideline, all of this kind of stuff, all of that. Iggy, I'll give you another one. So now Jimmy gets hurt, and Kyle is stuck. He's got this kid hanging around that they took with the last pick in the draft, and he didn't know a thing about him. So he said, "Yeah, I have to play him. I have nothing else." He's great. He didn't know that he was better than Jimmy, that Brock Purdy was better than Jimmy Garoppolo. He had the guy every day. He didn't know he was better. He didn't know what he had in his quarterbacks.
No. And then there's the end all be all was when he finally decided that Jimmy Garoppolo might not be good enough. He, instead of getting like Tom Brady or someone established, he trades 3 first-round picks for the biggest project in the history of projects, Trey Lance, and then loses interest in the project immediately.
Yes, absolutely.
Like a guy who's going to build a car from scratch in his backyard and just leaves the scraps everywhere forever.
That's what he did. And, I feel so sorry for Trey Lance. He didn't do anything wrong.
No.
It wasn't his fault they traded up to get him. Iggy, what did they trade up? What did they give up to get him?
3 first-round picks and a third-round pick. Like they were getting an all-pro quarterback in his prime, but they were getting the 3rd pick in the draft.
Yeah, and that's a sin. What they did was a sin. Absolutely a sin. So those are my 5 sins. And what I want to say, Iggy, how do you have a good reputation? I mean, even Tom Brady was saying, Shanahan's a great offensive mind and it's a great team. And I'm thinking, do you know all the quarterbacks he screwed up, including you? How does he have this reputation?
The biggest difference between Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh is that Kyle Shanahan got lucky with Brock Purdy and Saleh didn't get lucky with a quarterback.
No, he didn't.
No.
He got screwed. And his latest, he got screwed.
But if Purdy comes back to earth and isn't this special quarterback and he starts to have the Jimmy Garoppolo slide, Kyle shouldn't be allowed to stick around and pick another quarterback because he doesn't pick the right quarterback. He has to stumble into the guy like one of the 3 blind mice.
That's right. But Iggy, I want to say Brock Purdy coming back and playing good football again. It's not just Brock. It's the coach.
It's the coach.
What plays work for you, Brock?
Yep.
This is what we want you to do. We don't want you running around like that all the time, like Russell Wilson used to do. Let's get back to basics. What 10 plays do you like? What are we going to do? Not like these are the 10 plays I like, Brock, and you have to do them. What 10 plays do you like? Let's work them into the first quarter.
Yeah. Well, they could do that this week. They're going to be flying up to Seattle tomorrow. The Seahawks are awfully injured. They just lost to the Giants. Like the Niners, they haven't beaten anyone good. What are you expecting in this game?
Okay. Honestly, I don't know what to expect. I know people want to say, "Oh, what are Lowell and Grant going to? Who are they going to pick?" I have no idea because I know the Niners are flawed. I don't know why they're flawed, but I know. I mean, they're 2-3 and they lost to crummy teams. They're flawed. The other team is flawed as well. I don't like the quarterback. I'm sorry. I know he tries so hard. I don't like him. I think they have a good head coach, Iggy. I think they have a pretty good defense, don't they?
Mm-hmm. I think they do.
And they have a good running back.
They do.
And I would say
3 good wide receivers.
3 teams worse than Seattle. 2 teams worse than Seattle have beaten the Niners, the Rams and the Cardinals. And Seattle is better than those 2 god-awful teams. So I would have to say I could see the Niners winning this game. I could also see them losing this game.
Yeah.
I could see them hanging in there, being up by 10 points going into the fourth quarter and folding, because that's what I've seen twice this season. So I'm thank God I'm not a betting man. I have no idea which of these two terribly flawed teams is going to prevail in a game against the two frauds.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Seahawks are flawed, but they're not. They're a young team that's trying to find out who they are. They're not like an old team that's not cohesive. Like, they're a team. The Niners. That's why it's hard to pick the Niners in any game. Like, they're not a team. They could beat. I guess the Jets weren't a team either, right? They just fired their coach. The Patriots are a joke. I don't think the Seahawks are a joke. Where the Niners are, they're not a joke, but they're not a serious team right now. They're just a collection of talent.
Iggy, I think the Seahawks are the second best team that the Niners will face so far this season. Would you agree?
They're better than Arizona.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're better.
Better than
Arizona. Yeah. Arizona is very well coached. And boy, did they play. They played a heroic game against the Niners. And the Niners didn't play a particularly stout game. I could see the Seahawks beating the Niners, but I also could see the Niners, Purdy completing a lot of passes, get a moderate passes, not this long down the field stuff that he's not great at. And I could see Jordan Mason running for well over 100 yards and them winning. I could also see them not doing those things.
It'll be interesting to see if they do win the game, how they respond. Like when they beat the Patriots, Fred Warner lost his mind on the field. They said they're back. And I mean, they really celebrated like they had proven that they had regained their standard. Then they promptly lost another game to a bad team. So if they do beat the Seahawks, which they should, I'd love to see how they respond to that. But I'm not just assuming they will.
Okay. I really respect Fred Warner from how I've seen him comport himself and from people I know who know him. I really respect him. When he said we're back, he was probably emotional at the moment because it was a frivolous thing to say. You beat New England and you're back. It's almost a joke line. It's a joke line. So he shouldn't have said it. And then the next week proved that they're not back. If they beat the Seahawks, it doesn't prove they're back.
Right.
Because after the Seahawks, who do they have?
This team called the Chiefs.
Yeah. If they beat the Chiefs, they're entitled to say they're back. But that's a horse of a different color.
That's a horse of a different color. Frank Tom Ocean says, best show of the week. Glad I caught it live. Yeah, glad you caught it live too, Frank Tom Ocean. Richard Evangelista says, oh, hold on. Mr. Blue Magic 23 says certain players have too much power in Kyle's culture.
I feel they do.
Yeah. Richard Evangelista says, what would Papa Cohn's assessment on bringing Bill or Rex Ryan as head coach?
The Ryans.
Grant, do you think the Niners should get rid of Sorensen?
Well, based on present performance, but you don't want to go near the Ryans. Hold on. Now you know what? I'm not gonna say.
Dave Barclay says Tom Brady would have given us 2 more rings.
Yep.
Mr. Blue Magic 23 says passed on Brady, Patty, kept Jimmy Garoppolo after drafting Trey. All of those things. Dave says, but Lyle couldn't work with Brady, Saleh, Rodgers. Juan Jimenez says another sin having Brian Hoyer as a starting quarterback ever.
Probably that's a sin.
Gammon Brown says Saleh lost the locker room with the Jets this year. How certain are we that he's the same leader he was in 2020? A lot of turnover on D since then.
It's true. I can't account for him.
Derek Dawson says Holyfield versus Douglas was epic. He was only 205 and Douglas was 250. Talk about the heart and iron jaw, the punches he ate.
Well, he knocked him out with one right hand. What was it, in the second or third round? I was right at ringside for that.
Kevin A says best show. Always look forward for it every week. Keep telling the truth about the Niners. Thank you, Kevin. Vance says Kyle would run Mahomes between the tackles on 2nd and 8. And on that note, I think we'll get out of here. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching the Cohn Zone with Lowell and me. We'll be back next week. Same day, different time. Dad, I love you.
I love you, Iggy. This was a lot of fun. Thank you. And thank you for everybody who tuned in.
Take care.